Hey everyone, good evening, and thanks for joining us on Reawaken Your Brilliance. I'm Julie Seibert, and I'm your host. And if this is your first time joining us this evening, Reawaken Your Brilliance has body, mind, and spirit experts that present whatever it is they teach and they have knowledge about. And my hope is that you find something that really resonates with you, because I found that so many of us are kind of sleepwalking through life. You know, we're perfect the way we are, and then life happens. We have a breakup, or someone tells us we're not worthy, or we lose our job, and then we forget how brilliant we are and how we're meant to do great things in the world. So that's the whole basis of doing the show, and I hope that you find those keys to unlock your full potential. So if you watched the show last week, I was down in Natchitoches, Louisiana with my partner in crime, Sybil Rhodes. And Sybil is dying of cancer. And she has been in stage 4 for about 7 years now, which is pretty miraculous. And I had gone down there because the doctors had told her she had a month to live. And when I went down there, it was amazing to me how many people loved her and supported her. But not only that, her attitude for life. She has lived her life better than anyone I've known. She loves life. And I believe that's one of the reasons that she is still around despite being in stage 4. And while we were there, she had a prayer group over, and they were talking about another woman in a similar situation to Sybil, who they all talked about her negative attitude, and the doctor had finally said to her, I can't help you anymore. You know, you need to change this attitude, which, you know, I'd say a lot of Western doctors aren't really open to that. But it was just very interesting how the woman with the negative attitude, how her health had been affected and been going downhill, whereas Sybil, who kept that upbeat attitude, you know, and we just got good news. They gave her another 6 months to a year, which was not expected because they'd given her a month last year. So just a little reminder that attitude is everything. And so really examine your attitude. Are you putting something positive out there or something negative? All right, let's tell you about tonight's guest. As a gentle and supportive spiritual teacher, Sunny Dawn Johnston has helped thousands of people find their personal spiritual connection, learn to listen to their own inner truth, and recognize and own their own natural spiritual gifts. Sunny has been featured on many local and national television and radio shows, including Coast to Coast with George Norrie and Good Morning Arizona. In December 2003, Sunny founded Sunlight Alliance, a spiritual teaching and healing center in Glendale, Arizona. Sunny has also created the Sunlight Alliance Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to changing the world through spiritual awareness, holistic living, holistic healing, and workshops to teach healing and unconditional love. Sunny volunteers her time as a psychic investigator for the international organization Find Me, where volunteers work together to provide leads to law enforcement and families of missing persons and homicide. Sunny resides in Glendale, Arizona with her husband, children, and dogs. Welcome, Sunny.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
We're excited to have you. So I want to talk about your book, and then you've been gracious to do little mini readings for people that call in, but love your book. I love Angels, so I want to talk about your book. But the first thing I want to ask you, I first heard you on the radio, and you are one of, I'd say, a few people that I wonder if your voice has some sort of healing quality, because I had heard you on my friend Vinny's show, and just getting a 5-minute reading for you made me calmer and at peace. So is that something you've ever been asked or have any thoughts on?
You know, I've heard that. I never really had any thoughts on it, but I think that maybe it's the energy or the vibration that, you know, that I'm just resonating with, that's allowed to come through and touch people and maybe reach their, you know, their heart. It's not something that I, you know, have like worked on or anything, but I like it. It sounds really good.
Well, it is. I think you have a very healing voice. So tell us about your new book, Invoking the Archangels. Hopefully we can see that.
Well, the book, Invoking the Archangels, I wrote it last year. And I wrote it basically from life experience. It's, you know, I've had a lot of people that have asked me, you know, why I wrote it and why I chose the angels that I chose and different things like that. And really, this is just my own personal journey. And so the book is really kind of a how-to, a 9-step process to heal your heart, and it helps with kind of opening up your heart. It helps with being able to help heal and move old energy out of your body. And it's really based on my life experience working with the angels, which I started to do when I was 13 years old, on again and off again. So yeah, I've got the book. There it is. I don't know where my camera is, but that's it. And it's been really a fun experience so far. The book actually the published date is March 1st. So we had it out a few months early. So we've kind of gotten a running start and started our tour a few months ago. And it's been a lot of fun.
Well, it's excellent. I think what I really appreciated, I'm on your daily quote, daily inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
And one the other day was, sometimes we don't know the blessings that we give to others. And I love the story about the person that you were, I can't remember if your angels told you or you were moved to go buy her a big stuffed bear. Tell us about that story, because I really like that.
That story, it's in the book. It's about Archangel Shamuel, and I was working with learning about the different vibrations of each one of the archangels myself, and so I had decided to pick an archangel to work with each week, and for me, I was doing it for a week. And Shamuel happened to be the angel I was working with, who is the angel of unconditional love and adoration and self-love. And during that time, I was inspired to do what I called a pixie. And a pixie is, this was over the holidays. It was in December, and a pixie was someone that would come kind of like a secret Santa. And I chose a woman that was in one of my classes that I just felt guided to for whatever reason. I didn't know much about her. And so each day for the 12 days of Christmas, I would take different gifts, whatever I was guided to in the morning, and take different gifts, and I'd write a little poem to her and go take them to her house and leave them on her doorstep, surprise her basically. And you can't be found out, of course, so you have to run away. And it was really just a real joyful, loving experience for me and for my family. But one particular night, she had a dog that she absolutely loved. I knew that dog was like her child. And one particular night, I felt guided to put out a large stuffed animal, a large teddy bear. And along with that, as we dropped it off, I also felt like we needed to put $40 inside its hands. So we did that, not knowing why or whatever, and came to find out, and you don't usually get a lot of feedback about these kinds of things either, but I came to find out that she'd actually tripped over her dog the day before and had to put the dog down. And after she put her dog down, she came home to that teddy bear and the money. And she, at that point, really didn't feel like she wanted to live. She was very upset with herself. She was blaming herself. She felt lonely. And so she was in what she referred to as a suicidal place of, I don't even want to live. What's the point? And coming home to that teddy bear with that money and the reminders of the other gifts that had been given to her. I think we were in like day 7. She had told this person, I felt like there was somebody on this planet that loved me. And because they loved me, I decided that it was important to be able to stay. And, the way that I share it in the book and now too is you really do never know what kind of effect you might have on someone. And I was so just enjoying the process and having an open heart and having fun and just thinking it was kind of fun, not realizing that, in that particular case, for that woman at that time in her life, it very well could have saved her life in her language. So, I think that when you start working with, number one, when you start working from your heart space, but then for me, when I started working with the angels and I started allowing them to come into my space and work with me and help me and open up my heart, then everything in my life started to change.
Now, what I love about your book, Sunny, because there might be people who out there who think, only someone like Sunny can work with the angels. They have to be gifted or guided. So what do you say to that?
I'd say Sunny is just like everybody else. I mean, obviously people can look at me and feel like I have particular gifts and things like that. And I would say that everybody has those gifts. And, if you read the book, then you learn all about me and you recognize that I'm just an everyday person like everybody else with lots of struggles and lots of challenges. And if there were, if you were going to pick people out of a line, 25 years ago, I wouldn't have been one that would be chosen for saying, oh yeah, she's going to make something of her life, based on the experience and vibration I was in at that time. So, everyone has the gifts. Everybody has the ability to connect with their angels. Everyone can listen if they choose to. And it's just getting to a place of feeling, I think, deserving enough to not only ask for help from the spirit world, your angels, your guides, your helpers, but also then opening yourself up to receive it as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to remind everyone, if you have a question for Sunny, you can chat it, and I will make sure to ask her, or you can call in at 919-518-9773, or Skype in at Computers 2K Voice. Now, Sunny, you divided the book into 3 sections. Can you tell us about that?
So, as I started writing the book, it just kind of, the whole thing was guided. I've been going to write a book forever, and at least 10 years. I've been talking about it for 10 years. So when I told, some of the people that are closer to me, I'm going to write the book, they're like, oh, well, whatever. But, I had my publisher actually came to me and said, show me what you can do, start writing. And then, I turn a little bit in and he'd say, write more. And I turn a little bit in and he'd say, write more. And I never knew if he was liking it or not liking it. And then finally he said, okay, I'm going to offer you a contract. So by the time, I started to actually write the book, although it took me 10 years, 15 years to get there, I finally wrote the book in 6 weeks. And in writing it, what I discovered was that really it's kind of a self-help spiritual book. I've got the first section, which is just learning about the very basics of learning about angels and energy and each one of the archangels and what they represent, what color they vibrate to, what stones you can use with them, the invocations that might support you in connecting with them, and then a little anecdote, a story from my life about how I worked at that particular one. I found that I am a storyteller. And so that's the first section. The second section is the 9-step process. And the 9-step process to heal your heart really was channeled, guided in the written word. Although when I was writing it, I was trying to find a process, and I was looking over my life personally, how I went from the pain and shame and guilt and anger and resentment that I had, and got to a place where I started to love myself and embrace my own gifts and really value who I was. And I realized that there was a process that I went through, and then I started looking at all the clients that I've worked with over the past decade and thinking, oh my gosh, I do the same type of steps with them. I just never had a step process to it, but I was following the same kind of steps each time. And so I created this 9-step process to heal your heart, and it's working with the, sorry, that's my phone, working with the archangels and being able to call each one in for specific for specific areas, and to be able to help you baby step through things, because a lot of times it's too much to start from the pain that we're in and get to a place of appreciation and gratitude. So when we baby step it, we can actually heal. And then the third section is the 9-step process in connection with particular issues that people live with nowadays, addiction and health issues and career issues and relationship issues, and actually clients that I have walking through the 9 steps based on their own personal experiences with each one of those issues and areas, and being able to see an example of what that might look like. And that's been of incredible value for people.
Now, I wanted to know, I never knew about Archangel Chamuel until you. And so that was new to me. So I was curious, are there only 7 archangels?
You know what? That's a really good question. And I've had clients and people that are reading the book that have asked me, Sunny, there's more angels and more archangels than just the 7 that you're talking about. Why didn't you write about those? And really, I just wrote about the ones that I personally have had experience with. So I can't speak to, every archangel out there, because I haven't had my own experience with them. But the ones that I am speaking about are my own personal experience. So I didn't even... it's not taken from any reference, from any religious text. It's just pure life experience.
Oh, that's good to know, because we had a guest on, and then someone had asked me, they didn't want to ask the question online, but they said, are all the angels that she mentioned in the Bible? And I said, I can't answer that. And I said, I would assume that not all angels are in the Bible. They're just, I consider them to be a ton of angels. That's just my own personal belief.
Right. No, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of angels like there are people. But there's also particular archangels that are just a higher vibration, just kind of the heads of or the leaders of, and it's not necessary. I mean, this is one thing that I teach, even though it goes against, the reason I wrote the book, but you don't have to know what each one of the archangels does. You don't have to be able to call, say their name and know exactly what they're representing in order to work with them. You can just say, okay, angels, I need your help, and they will be there. The gift in knowing and having a little more detail is more for our head to organize things and be able to have a process and a way to be able to step through it. It satisfies the human element of us.
Well, Sunny, we have a caller on the line. Hey, who's there?
Hi, this is David from Los Angeles.
David from Los Angeles. What would you like to ask Sunny?
So I can get a mini reading? I can get a reading?
You have a question, David?
Okay, yeah. Well, I was just curious about my career and if I should make some changes, and I just feel stuck and it doesn't feel particularly rewarding at this moment in time.
State? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, can you give me your birth date, David?
Oh, my birth date, the whole thing, year and everything?
Just the day and month.
5/24, May 24th.
Okay. I sometimes the birthday just kind of helps open the energy for me. So,
yeah, sure.
What it feels like, David, is that for you, I do feel like it's time to make a change in work, and it feels to me like I feel like I've lost the passion or the excitement or the joy in the work environment. So I feel like I want to add more of that, and there are a couple different ways that you can do that. What I would suggest, and this is actually really helpful for a lot of people that are looking for a little bit more of an adjustment in their work environment, is create a list of all of the qualities that you want to feel in the work environment. Not what you can do, not as far as, I can type and I can answer phones and not that type of thing, but how do I want to feel in the work environment? I want to feel like I'm appreciated. I want to feel like I'm making a difference. I want to feel like I'm being of service. I want to feel like I am heard. I want to feel whatever the things are that you want to feel. And then start affirming that. Start reading it over and over again. Start acting on it, and bring that energy into your space. It feels to me like I think over probably the next 6 months or so, you're going to get more and more tired of where you are, but it's not going to be stuckness. It's going to be movement. It's like I'm moving in another direction. I'm moving out of where I am and into something new. So I feel like the stuckness has been just kind of not knowing where to go or not knowing exactly what to do. And now I just want to move that energy into kind of opening up to possibilities, and doing that, creating that list and getting clear on what I want to feel is really important, because most of the time we focus on what I can do. And that is important. The thought is important, but the feeling is what manifests. The feeling is the magnet. That's what attracts things to us. Does that make sense to you?
No, it does. I mean, I just don't. I mean, at my age, I just don't know. It just seems kind of silly or ridiculous to try to look at a second, career at this point.
Well, but the thing is you can live in an environment, be in a situation that feels uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean you have to go into a completely another career. It could be that an opportunity opens up in that environment that you're in, just a shift in the vibration, in the energy, and in the direction.
Yeah,
so
Do you have any? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that feels more like what's going to happen to me. Is I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to go to another place or another job that's different. I feel more like it's going to be created or shifted from the inside out. So moving into another area, or people can move that are around you. So it creates that opportunity for you. But part of it too is in your vibration, you have to believe that you can create and that you can have that type of experience too. So there's parts that you want to shift and get focused on in really how you want to feel in your environment. That's going to be really important for you, David.
Okay, so that's what I should do first.
That's what you should do. That's step one.
All right. Do you
Yes.
see, can I tell you what I do now, and then you could tell me maybe some area or something,
Sure.
some niche or something? Well, I'm in
Sure.
the real estate business. I'm a real estate broker. So, and I've been doing it for a long time, and the business has been okay. It's a little stuck now, but just, something, do you see a particular area within that field maybe, something?
Well, what it feels like to me is I still get about 6 months, and things are going to unstick. I think things are gonna opportunities. Do you do things with foreclosure stuff? Do you do that now?
Yes, I do that now, yes.
Because that feels like that's expanding, or it's going to expand in a different direction or direction that you're unaware of right now. And next year is going to be a better year money-wise for you towards the end of the year. Towards the end of this year into next year, more money, more movement as far as money energy will be coming into you. But there's major change. I feel like July, maybe August, major change in direction in the work environment for you.
So more clients, bigger clients, more money, stuff like that?
Right. More money for sure, November, December, moving into the following year.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Okay,
well, good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay. Great show. All
Thanks,
right. Bye-bye.
David.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We've got a couple questions for Sunny here on chat, but I want to remind you, if you want to chat in a question for Sunny, if you'd like to call in and get a mini reading, she's happy to do that. You can call in at 919-518-9773 or Skype Computers 2K Voice. Now, Sunny, Love and Kisses would like to know, how do you work with clients and what is a session like?
Good question. I work with clients. It's different with every single client in every situation. So we do private sessions, spiritual counseling, mediumship, intuitive readings, and it doesn't really matter what they don't have to pick what they want. They just usually come because they're guided to for whatever reason. I don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth or doing like radio or something like that. And so when people come, usually we just sit down, I'll ask them what questions they have or if they have specific questions. And if they don't, then I just open up and just see what comes, and we just kind of move through in whatever way Spirit guides us. So sometimes that is mediumship, sometimes deceased energies come through, sometimes it's more about like spiritual counseling, helping people to get a different perspective. Sometimes it's a little more on the energy work and energy healing that I'll do with them. So it's always different. And, one of the things that I always tell people is, the half hour or the hour, whatever the session is, it's theirs. And I'm just there to be the channel of energy, words, feelings, emotions, whatever comes up to me and through me for their highest good. So to me, it doesn't matter what it is that we're going to be doing. I just open up. And in the mediumship, and also in the readings too sometimes, the way that I explain the work that I do, because I do work as a medium and I also work as a psychic investigator with, as you mentioned before, with police and search and rescue, working on missing persons cases. And so a lot of times what I will tell people and the way that things come to me is I'm a clairsentient, I'm a feeler. And although I do see and I do hear and I have cognizant, knowing, I have all those attributes, my feeling is definitely my strongest. So when I get messages from the spirit world, whether it be your deceased loved one, whether it be the angelic realm, a spirit guide, it's always different with every single client as well as with every single deceased energy. And it comes to me in different ways. Sometimes it's feelings, sometimes it's words, sometimes I hear things, sometimes it's a picture in my head, sometimes it's an impression in my body. And so the way I describe it is, it's like pieces of a puzzle, and I'm putting together the pieces of the puzzle, but I don't know what the puzzle looks like, so I don't have the picture in front of me to know where the pieces go. So I just share the pieces of the puzzle, and with the person that's across from me, they usually know what most of the pieces of the puzzle are and where they belong. So between the two of us, we're able to create a picture where I have the pieces that maybe they don't know, and then they have the pieces that can actually glue the puzzle together, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, for people who don't live in Arizona, do you do readings via phone or Skype?
I do both. I do phone readings, I do Skype readings. We've actually had a lot of, we're starting this book tour that we started a couple of months ago, and we're traveling all over the United States. So while I'm doing the book tour, I'm actually, wherever I'm traveling, I'm also doing readings in those cities and towns as well. So I'm kind of coming to, to people's neighborhoods and doing them that way as well.
Excellent. Now we have a question from Captain here on chat, which I'm sure a lot of people would love to know. Captain asks, how does one attract money? Sure, that's an issue for many people. Great question.
That is a good question. This is the thing. Money is energy. And most people, I think, have energy around money, meaning challenge, conflict, belief systems that aren't necessarily supportive of creating or manifesting more money. So what I try to teach people when you're trying to focus on money is we're not really wanting money. We're wanting what money offers us, whether that is freedom, whether that's flexibility, whether that's opportunities, whether it is a particular item. We're really wanting, the end result is what we're actually wanting from the money. It isn't that we just want to sit and hold money and not do anything with it. So when you start to look at money as energy in, energy out, energy in, energy out. So as for example, if you go to Target and you go buy a box of cereal, there is energy that's been put into creating that box of cereal, and it goes all the way down the line to all the different parts of the production. And so when you go and you take that off the shelf, you give them your energy, which is in the form of money, and then you receive the energy of the cereal and everything that came along with that. So it's just an exchange of energy. And so when we start to look at money as an exchange of energy, it changes the vibration, it changes the way it feels, it changes the way we see it. And I think there's incredible value in being able to shift that perception a little bit.
Excellent. Okay, we have another question on chat from Warrior Spirit. Do you like to take pictures out of people's auras? How do you heal people? Don't really understand, but believe.
I'm not sure I understand the question. You take pictures out of people's auras. I don't get the pictures in. If the way that you're asking it is if I'm seeing the pictures in their aura, that's not the way it comes to me. It usually comes to me as an impression in either my own mind's eye, or I see it literally like floating around in my office. So for example, I did a reading many years ago, 8-9 years ago, and I was actually sitting in this office where I'm at right now, and I was doing a phone reading for someone. She was in Virginia. I'd never met her. She found me, I think, through my website, and her brother had recently passed, and it had already come up. He had already given her some beautiful messages and wonderful validation of different things that were happening in her life, and we were almost done with the reading. It was like maybe we had 10 minutes left. And as I was sitting in my chair, kind of looking around, I literally saw a nose floating around in my office. Like just the nose, no other part of the face, just the nose. And I couldn't figure out what that was. I'm like, there is no way I'm going to tell this girl about this nose. I thought I was kind of a little bit crazy. And there's not much that I think is weird. But at that point, that time, 8-9 years ago, that was weird. So I ignored it, and I ignored it, and I ignored it. And then something just said, you got to tell her. And so, I just kind of did it in a way that was like, is there anything about his nose that stands out particularly? Because he's really drawing my attention to his nose. And I knew it was connected to her brother. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not sure why you're thanking me, and she said, my brother died, and we had already talked about it. I already had told her what I felt in my body, and she agreed, and she said, yes, that's exactly what happened, but she didn't tell me how. Well, he was stung by a bee on the nose. So sometimes the message just floats around inside of my own, with my physical eyes, like it's just an impression sitting in the air somewhere. So it's different with every person. But no, am I actually seeing it in their aura? No. And you know, as far as healing people, I don't believe I heal people. I believe that energy comes through me, that is universal source energy that everybody has access to, and everybody has the ability to heal themselves. And all they have to do is be willing. And sometimes it's important for us to be able to receive that help from someone else. So I act as kind of like a conduit of energy and just allow and see my client as that perfect whole being that they truly are. And maybe they're just having a little, you know, a little issue. Whether that's serious or not serious isn't for me to decide. So I just let spirit kind of move through me, and they heal themselves.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's like I believe we totally have the ability to heal ourselves, and if we can get through the junk that's kind of layered on us, everything we need we know inside.
Right.
Now, we have a follow-up question from Captain who'd ask about attracting money. He said, in response to you, believe me, I understand that. So how does one attract more freedom then?
Well, so it's energy. So we create spaces to attract more energy to us, because that's really what we're wanting. So, you know, for me, freedom is the biggest source of freedom for me would be my time. When I have not as many demands, and I feel more freedom. So, you know, one person might be money, mine would be more time. So then it's creating and honoring for me that energy out, energy in, and creating space, allowing that energy to come in to me. So, you know, if I'm not making myself crazy busy, or I'm not booking myself crazy, or I'm not worrying about having enough time. When you worry about having enough time, you actually spend the time that you do want to be able to do something or spend with your family in worry mode. And that just, again, continues that cycle. Mm-hmm. So I would say it depends on what it is, you know, in what your freedom is representing, and continuing to affirm, I have plenty of freedom. And for me, that freedom represents time. I have plenty of time. There's plenty of time for everything that I want to do. I don't have to rush. I don't have to get it all done right now in this particular second. And so it really is just changing your mindset, I would say. And I also think that with freedom, you know, coming from money, bringing it to freedom, then I start attracting opportunities that make me feel free. So what makes me feel free? Is it being able to go to the park on a Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock? Or is it being able to buy the new computer without having to put it on credit? Or, you know, what are the things that make me feel free? And I would probably create a list and start focusing on some of the things that I would like to see that represent freedom for me particularly.
So would a vision board maybe also be good for people? Board, because a lot of us are visual.
Absolutely. A vision board is great. You know, a list of what I want to create is great. I like images and pictures, and a lot of times the energy that we're using to put those together is wonderful. So absolutely, you can do both.
Now I want to remind... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said or either either one.
I want to remind everyone, if you have a question for Sunny, you can call in at 919-518-9773, or if you chat, I will continue to ask you questions. Or if I know we have listeners around the country, save a dime and Skype in at Computers 2K Voice. So back to your book. How can the Archangels help us heal? Can you maybe give an example from your book?
Sure. Lots of examples from my book. Well, I'll give the example that I used in my own healing, physical healing. You know, I was in a situation, without giving a whole lot of detail, but giving you the basics. When I was 18 years old, I found out I was pregnant, and it was an unwanted pregnancy. I wasn't trying to get pregnant, didn't want to be pregnant, didn't even really like my boyfriend a whole lot, but was with him, got pregnant, thought about having an abortion, but that didn't work out. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm just going to be a mom, and was scared to death. And so throughout my pregnancy, I developed toxemia, preeclampsia, eclampsia. When I actually went into labor with my son, after a 36-hour labor, I had a stroke. So I went into emergency C-section. They took the baby. And from there, I created this horrible infection throughout my entire body. So my body was literally eating away at itself, from my knees to my chest. And I had 106 temperature for almost 3 weeks. And the doctors came in one day on a Saturday. It was a Saturday before Mother's Day. And they said, we don't think you're going to live. We're not sure what's wrong with you. We can't figure out why you're resistant to all the antibiotics, but we need you to sign your rights away in case you don't live. We know what to do with your son, basically, because I was a single mom, although my boyfriend was kind of in the picture. I wasn't married. And so that point, I realized, number one, I realized I was really in trouble. And number two, I realized that I wasn't even sure that I'd wanted to live before. I was so depressed and sad and angry about getting caught and having to have a baby and not knowing what to do and really afraid. But when someone came to me and said, you don't have a choice. We don't know that you're going to live, so we need to do this, then I fought back. And the way that I fought back was I had been, I had learned about the angels when I was young. I had my first guardian angel experience when I was 13 years old. And so I knew enough to know that if I called in Archangel Raphael, who I knew was the angel of healing, and asked him to help me to heal, that was my best chance, because I didn't really have any other chance. The doctors were telling me they didn't have any other answers for me. And so not only calling him in and asking him to be with me and visualizing the color green, which is the energy of healing moving through my body, but I also called every single family member in my entire family on both sides that I knew their numbers to, friends, everyone. And I said, and I was not a praying girl at that time, and I said, you know what, I'm not sure I'm going to make it, and I need every prayer that there is. So I don't care what religion you are, I don't care what belief system you are, what kind of healing work you do. Please tell all your friends, put me on the prayer list, put me in the temple. I don't care what it is. I need healing, and I need it now. And then that night, I worked with Archangel Raphael until I fell asleep. And the next morning when I woke up was the first day that my temperature broke after 3 weeks. The next day I checked myself out of the hospital because I was in a place, and and I was young and naive too, and I hadn't gotten to see my son, since he had been born those first 2 days. And so I just thought, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home and see my son, and I'll die at home. And it was that energy, I believe, of Archangel Raphael and really opening up in the desperation. Unfortunately, I had to get that desperate. We don't have to do that. But I had to get that desperate to be able to go, okay, you know what, you need help. And I needed to not only ask for it, but I also needed to be willing to receive it.
I think that's a key point, being open to receive it as well as ask for it. And what I really appreciate, because I've read your book, is sharing your story, because I think so many times people see someone like you or someone that's successful and think they have no struggles. They don't understand what I'm going through. And I mean, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a young single mom. I would be very overwhelmed if it was me. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's important for people to know, life doesn't have to be how it is. If you're depressed or anxious or sad, you have a choice. It can be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's a really good point, Julie, in the sense that I think that happens a lot, that people do see someone who is successful and maybe doing, their spiritual work and are spiritual, and then they think, okay, well, everything's just, fine and dandy. And, when you read my book and, some of the things that I've heard, the feedback and comments, although they've been wonderful, have been, oh my gosh, you're so vulnerable and you share details that I wouldn't want people to know. And I felt like it was really important to be honest and integrous with my truth and my experience. And there's lots of things I wasn't happy with, and happy with the way that I handled them, and could choose to do something different. I just didn't know better at the time. And so, that's really important. And even though we are spiritual teachers and beings and having this experience and teaching others, doesn't mean that we're exempt from having our own experiences. Just nearly 3 weeks ago, I lost a very, very, very close friend to suicide. And it was my husband's best friend. It was my son's best friend's dad, and a dear friend of mine. And I've not ever had that experience before. And it was very challenging for me as a spiritual teacher, with the beliefs that I have and believing that everything happens for a reason, and being able to also walk through the human part of, how the hell did this happen? That's the human part. And then the other side of me, I have these two little voices, the other side of me is saying everything happens for a reason, and there's purpose behind this, and there's value in it. And being able to, thank God, within a day or two, even in the moments of being there right after it happened, knowing and seeing some of the purpose behind it, as much as I didn't want to, because I just wanted him to be here. I was able to see that. And so I think that, it really is, it's about how we choose to look at things and where we choose to focus. And I have such a strong belief in not only the work that I do, but what I've learned in my own experience. And I've been challenged by it over and over again. As you read my book, you see a lot of the challenges. And although my life has gotten more gentle and easier as I've grown and evolved, that was probably one of the hardest things in my life to walk through, watching the grief of everyone around me, my whole crew, my team. Everyone was affected because I was such a close friend. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it is important to go, you know what, we're all human, we're all having our experiences. It doesn't matter who you are and how much you know. There is a human element that can't ever be taken away. That's why we chose to come here.
Absolutely. And we got a couple questions for you on chat. Cheese Goddess would like to know, how can we get the willpower to improve our diets?
Oh, that's a good question. Archangel Raphael is the angel of healing, but he also helps to heal with addiction and cravings. And I'll tell you just a real quick story about working with his energy, because I did that myself. I many years ago was addicted to diet Dr. Pepper, and
you're speaking my language.
I'm speaking your language now, am I? So I would drink Diet Dr. Pepper every, like a 2-liter bottle every day. And, some people wake up and they have coffee in the morning. I would have Diet Dr. Pepper. I'd go to sleep, Diet Dr. Pepper. So it was a Saturday afternoon, and I had been to the doctor the week before because I was having, my intuition told me something was not right with my body, specifically my bones. I didn't know why. I was 27 years old at the time, so it didn't make any sense. But I had called my doctor, my gynecologist, because that's actually the only doctor I have. And I said, you know what, I really feel like I need to have my bones checked. And she said, Sunny, you're 27 years old. Of course you don't need your bones checked. We don't even do bone density tests till you're over 50. And I said, well, I'm just telling you, I have a feeling about this, and I think that you ought to check them. And she said, well, you can have a DEXA scan done if you want, but they're $1,500. So then I'm like, oh, never mind, I'll just pass. But a couple of weeks later, she called me and she goes, you know what, you are never going to believe this, but we have someone who wants to offer a free bone density test to 3 or 4 people to try this new machine. And I thought of you because you just called me last week. And I'm like, yeah, that's how the universe works for me. So I got that done, and I had the bones of at 27 years old, I had the bones of a 50-year-old. And wow. So they said, there's all these different things to look at. So I said, all right, well, I need to do something about that. And the choices were, for bone density was, the reasons that I was at risk was I didn't take calcium, I was thin, I drank soda, and I didn't drink or eat any dairy. I've been allergic to milk all my life. So those were the concerns. And I said, well, I'm not going to gain weight because I've already been there. I am not. And I could work out, and I didn't really like to work out either. So I thought, well, I'll just take calcium. That was my resolve. But then this particular Saturday, I'm like, I really just need to have the desire for the soda to be gone. That's what I need. So on Saturday afternoon, I'd gotten in the refrigerator to get some soda, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to put it back. And I just, right there in that moment, I said, Archangel Raphael, I just need your help in taking the addiction away from me, taking the feeling and the want and the need and the desire of it away. And so that's what I did. I said it right out loud, right in my kitchen. And that evening, I didn't have a soda. And it was odd because I didn't even think about it or realize it until like late at night. And I'm like, gosh, maybe that worked. And then the next morning, I would have been obsessed about it. It would have been the first thing I did. And it wasn't until maybe the afternoon. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have a soda. And so I've never had one since. That was 13 years ago.
That's fantastic.
Literally was taken away. So I always tell people, ask for Raphael to surround you and make sure that you ask for the desire to be gone. But Raphael helps with addictions and cravings, and it certainly worked for me.
Excellent. Now, Captain would like to know, do you have any advice to improve one's own mediumship skills?
There's lots of different things you can do. I think meditation is one of the most important. The more that you can meditate and connect with your own spirit and raise your vibration, the easier it is to connect with deceased energies. So meditation raises your vibration. But over and above that, anything that raises your vibration will help you to connect with the spirit world, because we have these varying levels of energy. And actually, I wrote about this in my book, and there's a chart on my website, invokingthearchangels.com. You can go to the chart. That's a free chart just so you can see it, and it's in the book. But it's basically, our energy as physical beings is here. And then the next energy level up is where the deceased loved ones are. And the next level up are our spirit guides. And then the next level up are angels and archangels. And then the next level up is the God of your understanding, or the divine, or the creator, source energy. And so what we need to do to be able to connect and communicate with all these different energies is we need to raise our vibration. So whatever you do that you love to do, whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you happiness, whatever brings you that bliss where you lose track of time, that will raise your vibration. So for me, if it's going for a walk, if it's sitting in the sun, if it's talking to a friend, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it raises your vibration and it brings you joy, then it will raise your vibration. And that is the best thing you can do for mediumship. Other than that, I teach mediumship classes. There's a lot of them around. So there's particular tools that can help you discern and understand and connect. But the most important thing is to raise your vibration. That way you can communicate.
Excellent advice. Well, I have a personal question. Since you're talking about what brings you joy, doing this show brings me immense joy. I feel like once I've started this is what I'm meant to do with my life. And I've started some local events, but I'm putting this out there. This is what I want to do. Right now I make zero money. Yep. So, this is what I want to do with my life. So do you see anything about that? Any advice on that?
Now, when you say this is what I want to do, does that mean radio? Does that mean speaking? Does that mean teaching? What does it mean?
It means radio and television.
Okay. So
doing this show.
Doing this particular show. What it feels like to me is that part of your work in this is learning how to ask for help. What does that feel like to you?
I'm doing better.
Okay.
I do struggle with that. I have struggled with that my entire life. I feel like I've tried to work on that, asking the archangels, asking people. I've started to put it out there, like the fact that I'm saying this in public and starting to say this is what I want. So I know I need to work on that.
Yeah. Well, that's my hit, Julie, as far as if there's an energy that I feel like that you need to focus on and work on and be able to open up that energy so that you can continue doing this, that's what it is. You need to be able to ask for help. That is your greatest in this area. It feels like your greatest challenge, your greatest opportunity.
Okay, so
then both sides of that. So whether it's help in sponsorship, whether it's help with the people that you have on there, whether it's help from the listeners, but it's just help on all levels, because that's something that for you it feels like is a real. When you're there, you'll know it, because you'll start seeing the tide change.
Okay, because there's a person that can help me, and I'm going to have an opportunity to speak with them. And so I've been mulling over. I've decided the best approach is to just be me and to just be my passionate self and say, hey, this is what I feel like I'm meant to do. Can you help? I mean, I don't think there's any other way to ask it, but I've just decided the worst they can say is no and ignore me. And that's happened quite a bit, to be honest. I've approached people and that's okay.
Yeah, and that is okay. And, that's the most important thing to remember is just because one person says no, that's not the end of the world. That just means I know which direction to not go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will do that. Thank you.
That's a big part for you, my dear. You bet.
And we have another question from Warrior Spirit on chat. I have a hard time understanding that everything happens for a reason. How can I understand that when there is so much horror in the world?
you know what? I hear you, girl or guy. I'm not sure which one you are, but I hear you. You know, I don't think it's an understanding. I would say an understanding is something that we do with our brain, with our ego, with our mind, and I would say that everything happens for a reason is something that you feel within you, you know within you, your spirit tells you, and sometimes it is bad things. You know, I work with a organization, Parents of Murdered Children, and I speak at their national convention every year, and it has been, for me, the hardest event I've ever spoken at in my life, and the most amazing event all at the same time, because of the survivors, in the sense of the families that have had to move on from that space, that have so much unconditional love still in their hearts to give after such a painful experience for them. And so, you know, I do really believe there's value in everything, and sometimes the painful things, as ugly as they can be, are the most are the ones where we grow the most. And just like I was saying about my friend that passed, you know, I in 3 weeks' time, and I deal with death on a day-to-day basis. Like, people come to me because they've had people die. I'm a hospice volunteer. I've been hospice trained. I do mediumship work. I deal with murder cases and people missing. I mean, I'm around death all the time. And to have it in my own personal life creates a whole nother set of circumstances. And I think that, you know, it is, you started the show, Julie, with attitude. It is about attitude. And a lot of times when you believe that things happen for a reason, you're searching for the gem, you're searching for the positive, because, you know what, we could find negative in everything, really. And I believe we can find positive too, and it's just really a choice in which direction we want to move.
I love that. I had the job that I worked before starting out my own business. They were horrible to me. I mean, just awful. But I'm telling you, Sunny, I thank them every day, because I'm like, if you weren't so horrible to me, I would not be doing my own thing. And it's the happiest I've ever been.
Exactly. And so sometimes we just, you know, if you read through my book, and you know this, Julie, because you read it, there's a lot of information about my ex, my son's dad, and that so much of what I am so grateful for, and what I learned was what I didn't want in a relationship, what I didn't want in a father for my son, and because I learned that, I was then able to get much more clear about what I did want. And so it was easy then, although it was very painful at the time, and it was a very trying experience. It was easy then not only to be able to forgive him, but also to be able to be grateful for him and appreciate the experience because of the value I got out of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've got a very interesting question from Captain. Have you ever been lied to by a spirit?
Gosh, Captain, I don't know. I suppose that it's possible. I've never had anybody that I've been working with that has said, "Oh no, that's not true. They're telling you something wrong." What I would say, though, and not all psychics like to talk about this, but I will, is there certainly could be times where I've misinterpreted the information, and so it may come across that, you know, maybe I've gotten the wrong information from the spirit, but that's almost always our own human interpretation that's incorrect, not the spirits. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I don't know. That's the best answer I can give.
So I want to ask you, Sunny, you know, you talked about your own experience being a single mom. What would you say to someone out there who's listening or watching that's struggling? Maybe they're a single mom, maybe they've just lost their job. What advice would you give to them?
Well, you know, the first thing I would say is really to open up and ask for help. And asking for help isn't always about asking for help out here with friends and family. Ask for help from here, from your angels, from your guides, from your helpers, and ask for help with an open heart. I think oftentimes we're asking for help from our head, and we need to ask for help from our heart. When we ask for help from our heart, things change. And so that's the one thing. And then the other thing is, when you ask for help, don't be so focused on the way that it has to come. Mm-hmm. Be open to the possibilities of different ways that it may come. And allow yourself to then receive. So like every morning when I wake up, I open my arms out to the universe and I say, I am open and receptive to all that is good. And I do that sometimes while I'm laying in bed. Sometimes I do it when I'm standing up. Sometimes I go outside and do it, depending on how I feel.
I love that. I'm going to start doing that. And the other thing that I'm passionate about when doing the show is no couch potatoes. So if they see someone, what one step can people take right now, tomorrow, later tonight to reawaken their brilliance? And I like the idea of it at heart, but do you have any other thing? What, sometimes it's just that first step we need to take to get us moving.
Well, I would say that, my book is a 9-step process, but I would say the first step is just give yourself credit for being aware that there's something that you want to move. You can't heal anything or fix anything until you have the awareness of it. So and sometimes people sit in awareness for a very long time, but awareness is the first step. Once you have the awareness that this isn't working, I want to change this, I don't like the way this is, then you can make some changes. You can take the steps to do what you need to do to move into a more joyful place. But until you're aware, then you're living in that unawareness, and we all know people that are unaware. Mm-hmm. So give yourself credit for the awareness that you have. That's what I would say is, a first step. So just give yourself that credit, and then ask Spirit. Go within, ask Spirit, what can I do next? What's my next step?
Now, if someone were to purchase your book, do you have any advice on how they can use it or how they should start to use it?
It's really an easy read. It's self-explanatory. I explain a lot about the angels in the beginning. I have an opportunity for you to have your own experience with the angels. So it's experiential. There's exercise. There's questions. There's things for you to be able to do to actually create that connection and that conversation between you and your angels. So I would say, if you just start reading it, you'll be guided to what the next step is for you. We created a workbook that goes along with it that a lot of people are really finding a lot of value in. So it actually has you do processes through each part of the book. So that's been helpful for people too.
Now, Sunny, if people want to find out more information about you or your book, where can they go? And just so you know, on reawakenyourbrilliance.com under Julie Recommends, there is a link to Sunny's book.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can go to my website, which is my name, Sunny Dawn Johnston with a T.com, or you can go to the book title name, invokingthearchangels.com. Either one of those have all the products on there. We have a lot of supporting products. We have cards and candle sets and workbooks and journals and a lot of different things just to help create a whole experience for people.
And then do you have any upcoming classes? Can you briefly talk about the book tour? So if people are interested in hosting you in somewhere across the U.S.
We're going to be all over, Julie. So we're heading to Texas in 2 weeks. We'll be there for 12 days. In May, we're going to be in Indiana, Fargo, North Dakota, Minneapolis, Sioux Falls. In June, we're going to be in Chicago, Ohio, a lot for 2 weeks. July, we're going to be in Utah, Colorado, Idaho. August, we're going to be up in Washington State, northern Idaho. September, we're going to be up in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Connecticut, Pittsburgh. In October, we're going to be in your area and then heading down south to Florida. So we're going to be all over. So check out on invokingthearchangels.com. We have a tour website or a tour map, and it tells you all the different places we're going to be. We've got 65 stops this year. So we'd love to have you host one if you feel guided, Julie, and we'd love to have people come and attend and share it with the people that you feel guided might be interested.
Excellent. I'll plan on doing that. Now, I've got an announcement to make, but I know, Sunny, you have another class you've got to teach. So
I do.
I want to make sure that you get off on time. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Julie, and thank everyone for being here and being a part of it. And we'll connect next time.
We will. We'll connect soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Julie.
And I want to remind everyone who is in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area that it's not too late. I'm really excited about our Thrive event next Tuesday. Kind of touched on what Sunny talked about, finding and attracting love. So if you're trying to find that great love, of course, as the late Whitney Houston sang, the greatest love of all is loving yourself. But check us out. If you go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com, you can find out the link to get a ticket. We have a special. If you're buying, you and a friend want to buy a ticket, you get a discounted price. And don't forget, you have a free chiropractic and acupuncture treatment, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye now.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays, 9 a.m. to noon. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays, 8 to 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays, 8 to 9 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com.